Bonjour and hello everyone. Welcome to Queer French Farmhouse, the podcast about being queer as an expat living in France and renovating a house, or in my case, half a chateau. You guys, welcome back to the podcast. It's another week and another week has passed in the chateau. And today and this week I would like to talk about just doing things, and especially about like setting up a business in a foreign country and how you can go about and how you deal with all the emotions that also come in between, and what your motivation in general is for moving to a different country. So because I find, and I'm diving right deep in there, that sometimes people think they might move somewhere else, which doesn't even have to be like a foreign country. It can also be like a different city inside your country of residence, and you think that maybe your problems won't travel with you. But I can assure you that they will. Your baggage is your baggage, and it will be your baggage whether you're in rural France, and it will probably keep up with you, and it will probably even get worse here, talking through the eyes of someone living in a rural area, where you actually like have the time to also just concentrate on yourself. It's like when you're in a city, you have distractions, you have lots of other people, you have lots of things that to do, you have lots of visual context, lots of things that you have to look at, like advertisements, all these kinds of things. You don't have that in a rural setting. You have the nature, which is so much more easy on the eyes. Your eyes don't need to analyze letters all the time. It's different. So you actually have the time to think about yourself and actually like kind of come to terms with yourself. Maybe that's a good kind of like good description of it. So but let me roll back and give you some advice, or just like a bit of my story along here. So if you haven't known, if you're new to the podcast, I run a bed and breakfast in rural France, as you also might have heard in the intro. And I've just opened up my bed and breakfast this week. Monday was the opening. I didn't have anyone staying Monday, but Tuesday I had guests. And right now I'm also having guests who are staying for 2 nights. So it's been quite the journey to get here. Not only have I renovated a whole floor inside the house and like done a few tweaks to the downstairs and to my bedroom, but mostly I've been concentrated on the 3 guest rooms that I have upstairs in my 2nd floor, right under the roof. And I've been building bathrooms. I've been setting up things so that I can host guests and they have a nice time. They all have their own bathroom. They have nice beds. They have like all amenities they need, kind of like creating an environment where I would feel nice and welcome. And it's the only thing you can do. Basically, you can go from yourself and try to figure out from there what people might want, and then like absolutely listen to people and be open about their ideas, about their inputs. So yeah, that's what I've been basically trying to achieve. So it's been quite the journey until now. And I think it's really important to, before you even go on that journey, before you even decide like to set up something, is to inform yourself about things, especially if you are in a foreign country. In a foreign country, and I'm in Europe basically, which there's European regulations and there's the regulations of each country. that's within the European Union. But that can also vary a lot, actually. Like laws can vary quite a lot and all these things. So it's really important to kind of inform yourself about the country's laws, about habits, about like how do I go about setting up a business? What are the steps that I need to do in order to actually like open up something, and what are the requirements? How do I need to adapt to this new kind of life? And also I've set up businesses before in Germany as well, and I've run 3 businesses, and they've been all like freelance artist businesses. I've been a yoga teacher as my own business, and so it all requires kind of a bit of a different skill set. But I do understand that in the very beginning, and do understand me, that it's every time you start something new, especially when it's a business, then you'll be confused because you're doing it for the first time. And yes, you will get a bit more knowledgeable once you have set up a few businesses, but with every business comes a different thing, different regulations, different laws might be adapted to that business. So yeah, just it always feels overwhelming in the very beginning because you're not really sure, do I need to like get this form? Do I need to get that form? So it's really important to do your research, just sit down, kind of like, or talk to someone. If you know someone who's done a similar thing, like talk to them, or like just read. Like I've done this, like in France, actually, I have to say, if you are in France, or if you're trying to like open up a business in France in the future somewhere, the French government has a really good site. It's an information site of the French government, and it's in French and English even. So in case you don't understand, I mean, the English translations sometimes are a bit like wonky, but you get the gist. And if you speak French, then actually, like, I say that I understand most of it, like when I read it in French. So it's fine. If you can get by with your French in France, probably you'll be fine with reading all through this and reading through the requirements and everything. Maybe you'll have to reread some parts, but and it's really informative. It's really intuitive. You just type in the topic you're searching for, and you get all like different laws, all of different regulations, tips on how to set up certain businesses, on what to do, what your steps are. If you're inside the European Union, there's also a European Union website that is basically made for citizens of the European Union who want to get things done. It's basically like how to buy a property there and there, or how to register a car in that country, and things like this. So it's really, this is also a really, really good site to check out. I'll leave you all the links for those websites in the description box below, or in the show notes, as they're called in the podcast, and you can check them out. They're like France specific, but if you're into that, then it's definitely gonna be quite good to know about all these things. Well, and that opens up a new door. It's the interaction in a different language, and I've had this now with my very first booking. My very first booking, most of my bookings are French people, so I was really anxious about that. I was so anxious about like people coming and like being rude about my French, or being like, like that they don't understand me, or that there will be any sort of problems, or that I won't understand them. I have to say, and probably I mean, the situations will come. It's the very first week, so I'm also being very reluctant here with giving out like all this advice. So don't really take it like, you know, it's an experience. Let's put it that way. So I've been able to interact quite well with people. I mean, my French, I would say, is like a quite. I can have small little conversations. Will I be able to write a dissertation in French? No way. But I actually am able to have a bit of a conversation with people. I can explain myself. I mean, I still do make a lot of mistakes. Don't get me wrong. My French is nowhere near where it should be, or where I want it to be. You know. But I think it's fair enough, you know, to have this business and to understand people and make myself understandable. And I do have the ambition to learn the language. I'm learning every day, I'm really wanting, like, because for me it's also like I've moved to a different country and I want to interact in the language of the country. You know, it's like. And I came here and I already knew French. It's like I had high school French. So it was there. I could understand people. I could understand like the gist of conversations and everything. But it has gotten so much better already just by living here, by interacting with people, and by also putting myself into situations that maybe are a bit overwhelming sometimes, because we've had like dinners or get-togethers just in French. My boyfriend and me with like different people, and my head is aching after that, because you really have to process, especially if there's like more people, if there's like 4 or 5 people and they all kind of talk, and then you're like kind of like filtering out, you're still like semi-translating in your head, and then you're putting together your sentences, and you're just like, I'm sorry that I'm so slow, and like, you know, but like people do really appreciate if you talk in French, and if nobody has to translate, you know. And so I do, from my experience, it's been very, very well received that you're trying to learn the language, and people will help you a lot, actually. And I think also one of the points of like setting up a business in a foreign country, or setting up a business anywhere, is to be open-minded. You know, things are not gonna go the way you've planned them, and I love organizing, I love planning, and but I do understand that it's not always that way, and sometimes it just doesn't work. You know, sometimes it just all goes to shits, and you have to start from scratch, or you have to take a different approach. And you know, I think that's what's gotten me through life so far. And I've basically, half of my working life so far has been freelancing, or longer than half, actually. So I've been freelancing almost 10 years now, and I have to say that I think like being open-minded and being a sort of chameleon and adapting to situations has really helped me with my businesses, and really helped me to have always a foot in the door, and to always kind of like adapt to the situation, so that I can still like go on and finding ways to making it work. And I think that's the most important piece of advice that I can actually give to young entrepreneurs, or to people who want to set up any kind of business. It's like, really just do it. It's a matter of actually gaining experience, not necessarily having it right before, because also each business, each enterprise is going to be so different from one another. So let's say I've done the yoga teaching, I've done professional dancer, I've done professional choreographer, and I've done website builder. So, yeah, parts of each thing will help me with another thing, but it won't be exactly the same, you know? It's like all my experience, especially human interaction experience, is absolutely flowing into this project. And this project is also like, you know, it's, I think, and I do really believe that if you set your mind to a thing without being naive about it, you know, I'm not saying like be blue-eyed, be naive, like just run into the open knife, you know. It's like, I do not believe that. I believe that you have to be organized, and I believe that you have to know what you're doing, you know. It's like, in order to succeed, you have to be willing to put in the work, because if you just do it but you're not willing to put in the work and put in the beginning lots of free work, then being an entrepreneur is definitely not for you. You will be miserable. You won't find freelancing freeing. You'll actually find that it's pure stress. And so I think don't be naive about it. Like, look at it, but don't lose the dreamy side, you know. Don't lose the little kid that says like, oh, I really want to do this, because then you won't have to drive, you know. It's a balance act. It's a balance between being naive enough to follow your dream and being realistic enough to know what you need to do to achieve it, you know. And the in between, I think, like everything in life, everything is a balance, you know. And I think if you manage this balance, and you won't manage it all the time. I'm a huge dreamer. I've had wildest dreams of things to do, or things like how things can turn out and everything. And I think, but dreams keep you going, you know. Dreams are like the motor of things. It's like they keep you motivated, because without that, you will lose motivation very quickly as well. But yeah, I do believe if you set your mind to a goal, you are going to achieve it, because you're going to do anything that's possible in your means to achieve this goal. And yes, there are certain goals that require different things, different qualities. Yes, absolutely. But also you can acquire these qualities to achieve that certain goal, you know. I've put myself, like, I was really late in ballet school. I was the oldest of my class in ballet school. And I was 21 when I graduated from ballet school, where everyone else around me was like 18 or 19. But I set myself up to do it, and I really, really wanted to dance. I wanted to be a professional dancer, and I really wanted to be a ballet dancer. And I just made it work. I mean, yes, I have never achieved the greatness. I could have never been like a first soloist. I'm realistic about that. Not going to happen. Or it didn't happen, you know. At least in classical dance. In contemporary dance is something different. But in classical dance, I was just missing those years, you know. I started when I was 15, late 15. And I just missed about 5 years of education, 5 years of my body being trained to sustain the technique and the rigor of ballet. Which I'm not saying like some people can do it, but they also mostly, I've seen people who started late, but they had really great bodies that were supporting this, you know. They had nice turnout, beautiful legs and feet, like all these things were there already. The body was there to sustain the rigor and the technique of ballet, of classical dance. So that's a whole different story. But for me, it's like I had okay feet, I had quite nice legs, but I wasn't super turned out, for example. but I will never be. It's just like my hips. I can't break my hips. It's just what it is, and you need to accept it. And at one point, you when you're 18, you think you can break your hips literally, but at one point you get to this age where you're accepting. You're accepting like that. It is what it is, and that's what I mean with being realistic and dreaming at the same time. It's like be realistic about your goals, but also dream and set the goals high enough, to just go for it. And yes, I think that's it for this week. It's been a crazy ride so far, and I've had my next guest right now. I'm still hosting them, and everybody's liking it so far. So it seems I'm doing an okay job. And if you would like to stay with me, then you can find me on Airbnb, on booking.com, on Veg Visits, and my books are open for next summer. So if you ever think of spending a summer in the French countryside, or part of your summer in the French countryside, go on and try to look for a room. I have 3 rooms available, or if you're coming with your whole family, I can also accommodate like a whole floor, and you can just book like the whole 2nd floor. That will also be possible. And yes, I'm hoping that you have a beautiful weekend and a beautiful next week. And thank you very much for listening. Please, if you enjoy the podcast, follow the podcast, leave it a rating, and yes, tell all your friends and family about it, because it's quite a lot of work for me as well, and it really is nice if it pays off. And yeah, check out my Instagram, check out the show notes, everything is there, and I will talk to you next week. Bisous et à bientôt from the southwest of France.